Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. Richard Branson said, "My biggest motivation? Just to keep challenging myself. I see life almost like one long university education that I never had. Every day, I'm learning something new." Well, on today's episode, we talk about always learning and challenging ourselves, mindset, personal development, lessons from adversity, the 4 pillars of success, the gamification of money making in your business, and more. Our guest is a proud father, a business development and sales expert, advisor, author, trainer, motivational speaker, and podcast host. He's built 4 successful companies, including his first, which generated over $1 million in sales in less than 6 months. And he's been instrumental in helping other businesses grow and scale. He's part of the advisory team of Kevin Harrington, the original shark on the hit TV show Shark Tank. He's also been featured on Brian Tracy's TV show that aired on ABC, CBS, Fox, and CNBC. Please welcome the kick-ass sales guy himself, Christopher Cumby. Chris, thank you so much for being here. It is great to see you.
It's awesome to see you, Jay, for sure. And man, I did all that stuff. Like, it's funny how life's lived forward, but often you don't understand until you look backwards, right? And you just brought up some things that along that journey happened, and it's just a piece of that quilt, I guess, of life, right?
Absolutely. And it's always interesting to research someone who's accomplished so many different things, such as you. And, as you start to list off all of those amazing things that you've done, it tells part of the story, but it doesn't tell the entire story. So
for sure,
what I would love to do is to take a look at your origin story and maybe share some highlights of what has helped you and shaped you to become the person who you are today. So take us back a bit and share some of your story.
Sure. I'll spin back a little bit and try to do this in a very effective and, time effective way. So I don't bore the audience as well with, me. And, this is not about me. What it is it's funny when you're doing shows, the words that come out and then you recognize them. You're like, I did that on live radio a lot. So it's funny. Anyway, it's the progression of a worthy ideal, right? It's success to me. It's like moving along in the seasons of life and everything has kind of changed. But, I would say that what shaped me the most is being sort of that student mindset always. I was always curious. Kind of like the cat behind me, right? We talked about that. Curious to see if it's interesting. If it's not interesting, I move on. And I honed in on the things that were interesting to me. So I was fascinated, because I come from a humble household. My parents didn't have a lot of money, but they, provided the things we needed, but not all the things we wanted. So I had to figure out ways to, make a little bit of extra money. That was my motivator really early in life, because I knew that there are certain things that I had to do. I had to actually give something in order to get something. I understood that concept really early because, again, I got, because of good behavior, the things that my parents were able to afford. But if I wanted any additional things, I had to work for it. And, it shaped me for that. So it started really early. And that, call it habit, or better yet, the function of doing and then getting was just something that I understood. And I think, again, probably, with my kids as well, and I'll talk about, what shaped me along that journey, but my kids really shaped me. Each one is a season of my life. Each one comes from an area of my life that was happening, but all part of that quilt of life that, you can get in that and warm up and just cover yourself with, which is, I think, the love part. I often followed the love of my heart, not always, the things in my mind, but I should have listened to my mind and not just go with the heart. But I think because of those two parallels in life, it shaped me to understand that the two need to talk. And I learned to be instinctual. So when I was 22 years old, I learned that I was going to have a baby. And at 22, that's a tough pill to swallow. It's not impossible at any age for that, to happen when you can reproduce. So it can happen to kids even younger, obviously, and it has. But for me, it was that pinnacle moment of like moving from intellect to application. Like you learn a lot as you're, a teenager, you're going to school, you're finishing college. I didn't finish college. For me, it was like, I just wanted to find the most efficient way for me to be in life. But then I have this baby all of a sudden that happened in my life. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I really need to figure this stuff out. Not just me. The stakes are now higher at a young age. And each part of my life, the stakes got higher because I have 4 kids. And, I do things in my life so that I know they're watching. I mean, I say this in my show a lot, Jay. If I don't do what my goals and desires and things that scare me, then how would I ever expect that I can push my kids? Because they'll just look at me and go, well, you don't do it. So that's a bit of a punch below the belt.
Let me interject for just one moment, because you brought up something that I think is important for us to explore for just a moment.
Sure.
With that said, about knowing that our kids are watching and knowing how you feel about that, what can you point to? Is there something that you experienced or something that you did that you realized that your kids were probably watching this, but it didn't quite turn out as you expected? There was maybe a lesson that came out of this. Maybe you didn't attack a situation to the best of your ability or the way that you wanted to, but you did it anyway. Mm-hmm. But there was a lesson that came out of it to be able to share with your children.
Yeah. And listen, I think that sort of reframe a little bit of that is that, when they're watching, it's all kids, really. It's not just my kids. Kids watch. If that builds a strong community. If you have people that are leaders in communities, they watch. Kids watch that. They become leaders in the communities because they're a part of that. So for me, it's always been not necessarily a moment where, I've done something. It's just, I try to make sure that anything I do, I bring a good attitude, for one. In front of my children, I can vent to, a good friend or whoever I need to get a safe place with. But for my kids, they need to see that I'm just progressing through no matter what the situation is. And I've always just brought a good attitude, something I'm going to figure out. If it's a problem, I treat problems like success the same way. It's just an experience. I've got to learn from this. And what are the seeds that I can take from that to win going forward? So I don't make it so much of a pressure of like, I made a mistake. It's like, they wouldn't really know I made a mistake in front of my kids. They just know how I respond to things, because I've learned over time that I don't react, because reaction is just this emotion that can just go all over the place depending on what's happening in that moment of time. So I don't like to react in that, because I could be volatile. I'm just like everybody else. I mean, listen, I got some fire. I got some, lots of weaknesses. I've got some strengths. Whatever those moments are in that emotional, moment is, I've just learned to stop and just check in. And it's a muscle. It's mindfulness, I guess. Probably that's the best way to put it. It's mindfulness in a moment, because that's really, and and I just learning this stuff and amazing stuff I've just been listening to that reinforce the things I've already experienced. But now I know there's science, and it's like, those moments in time when my attention is like on the flashlight is right here, because there's a floodlight and flashlight, right? And I'm learning that like these analogies are so easy to go, okay, I'm in this moment, just stop. I know I'm emotional. Which way am I? Where am I going to go? Like which way is it? I got to check in for a moment. So I train myself to have that, because I never really had experiences around my kids where, I like to be a rock. I've always just had that. My dad's been a rock. I never really saw him, I knew he had some emotional things and swings, but he was just a rock in front of me. So I wanted to represent that. And that's probably where I learned a lot of that it's just be like just a rock for a moment. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. It's hard to break, just for a moment. So that's probably, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that that's more or less what happens in me. And I learned really early because I surrounded myself with information. My first book was Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. 18 years old. I was in Amway, and my upline back in the day gave me a book. Read this. And I'm like, all right. Just like Think and Grow Rich was like one of the 5 books I got from those mentors back in the day. And I'm so grateful because that shapes you. And, I think that everybody should definitely find things that influence them positively and give them a good attitude.
So what was it about Awaken the Giant Within or Think and Grow Rich? What resonated with you? If you can think back to that time, you're with Amway and you're starting your professional sales career, if you will. What was it? What spoke to you? What message did you take away from that?
I would say both, to draw the parallel, because they're different books, but to draw the parallel, I would say that I learned that I was a frequency. I was a transmitter and a receiver of energy. And learning that concept of frequency and vibration, because they can go from low to high. And, I knew that the things in life that I wanted to have resonate here. But if I'm down here, then it's a matter of like figuring out, like, for instance, you can't tune in to 103.2 and listen to my station on Florida Man Radio. You just can't. But if you go to 103.1, you can listen to the show. So it's kind of like life. I try to find the balance between the frequency, because when it's fuzzy, you're probably not tuned in. So I try to look at it that way. That's what I learned between those things. And of course, so many more lessons, but I would say that parallel, because you asked me between the two things, is I learned how to, I learned that I am that frequency, and I just got to manipulate me, because that's where it starts. No, it's not the external stuff that I always maybe thought it was when I was, growing up, that no one taught me. Like no one taught me. If someone taught me young, at my kids, and this is the thing, I teach my kids this now, that this is where they're at. I have them check in, especially when they're misbehaving. Like, is this really what you want? Because that gets nothing when you're misbehaving. But when you're behaving, man, that frequency, there's so much abundance.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's a great analogy of the station, right? Tuning in. And again, I mean, you talked about science being behind a lot of what you already knew, but and we're learning, but the science backs it up. It's the same thing with energy. And it's so true. I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced it before, where the people that we're around, if we're around people who are very low energy, just are talking about negativity and things that are going on that aren't going well, we tend to go down to that level, and it impacts every area of our life in that moment. But on the flip side of that, when we're around a group that is always seeing possibilities, that is been there, done that, people that are moving and shaking and really excited about squeezing the juice out of life, we elevate. Our energy level goes up as well. So it's really an interesting
it works both
conversation
ways.
there.
I mean, it works both ways. I mean, the science behind it is the same, whether it's negative or positive. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the mechanism of how that function creates the form, right? And once you learn how to manipulate it, because we all have the power to do that. I'm learning so much more about, mindfulness and taking the moment of my days. And I practice meditation. I practiced all kinds of things that helped me build that muscle as if I went to the gym, because I think that we have that ability to expand and learn how to use that energy effectively and be able to recognize it when it's not flowing. Like, if things aren't working, why do you keep doing the same things? It never made sense to me, just whether it was philosophical or not. It's just like, why would I do that? Maybe that kid, and I see it in my kid now, like my second youngest. He's just so like, well, why would I do that? He asks the why all the time because he hears me ask the why. Like, why? Like, Jay, I have like why questions for a lot of things because I want to know why. Like, why do we do things? Why do I want things? Like, and so what I'm really doing is I'm drawing, and I'm happy to do it for your audience today in terms of 5 very powerful questions, and we can get into them. But I ask, like, what am I really trying to feel? Right? Like, when we do things, what are we really trying to feel? Because we're emotional. We're trying to have a frequency at a moment, right? And how you're conditioned or programmed, this gets you into a spot where you're getting the same things over and over and over. And you have to be awake enough to, or better yet, and I ask this question a lot when I'm coaching and everything else, is, are you committed or just interested? Because if you want to change your life, then you got to be committed. If you really want to move the needle, you're going to have to change. I'm sorry, but the vision of you right now is not going to fit that dream and desire. It's just not. I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not. And I'm honest with people because they need to hear it. Punch below the belt, whatever you want to call it. I think people need to hear it because misery loves company, right? So they always love to tell a story. I'm learning so much about, the story of our past, getting stuck in that rhythm. A lot of people wake up to that every day, right? And have this vision of the past, and, whether it's negative or positive, that's fine. If it's positive and you're kind of in that groove and things are working well for you, but you're still in a comfort zone, because I believe everybody can level up. If you're in a comfort zone, you got to get out of it. Like, we need to grow, right? And sometimes it's okay to be comfortable. It certainly isn't when you're broke and, and even though people fall into that comfort zone, it's like they don't know how to get out of it. But I have very 5 powerful questions. If you'd like, I can share those with you.
Yeah, I do want you to share those, but I want to tie back to one thing before we go there. So yeah. Please don't.
And I might have lost the rhythm there, so I apologize.
No. You're good, and we're going to get right back to those 5 powerful questions because I know that's going to bring value to our listeners. But as you look at lessons that you've learned, and as you look through your past and things that you've had to work to overcome, challenges that you've faced, adversities that had lessons attached to it that you may not necessarily have realized at the time, but through distance and space between the adversity or the challenge and who you are today, then those lessons become a bit more clear. So share an example for our audience of something that you've had to work through personally, and what steps did you take so we can all take a lesson away from that?
Yeah. Okay. There's several through life, but let's go to the most probably recent, because I think I've got a valuable lesson that I learned that will help a lot of people. Because we always have sort of the story, right? We make up the story along the way, and then we also look at what happened in our lives, and we reinforce the story to make it, in some cases, depending on where you are emotionally, it might be bad all the time and painful, and you track that, or you're learning the lesson from it. You don't want to make that mistake again. So there's kind of two spectrums. People live through it, or they've gotten themselves out of it, and they've learned to now accept that part of their lives. So for me, going through, and I never really understood depression at the level of experiencing it. I knew about it, didn't know it. I mean, things, but you don't know it unless you've done it, or been through it. So depression for me was probably a good example of like going through this path. And because I've always been goal oriented, sports oriented, and, tough as nails when it comes to just getting it done. Like, I don't know. A lot of times people ask me, how did I do certain things? Well, I just did it. I do it, and I do something every day, and something else happens. And if I was to sit there and maybe watch a video of time, I think it's just the progression of being on the move. That's my whole show. I'll give you a premise behind how I got out of it, the story behind it. But one day, during all of this, and it went on for a little while, I was beating myself up, losing confidence, didn't trust myself, wasn't keeping promises. I was just spiraling. And when you lose a footing, it's like you're on this, skyscraper, and you're on the edge of like, man, if I go that way, I'm done. I got to lean in. I got to lean in here. And that's what I did, Jay. I leaned in because I didn't want to fall. Even though I got my life and I took full responsibility for everything that happened, because I did an inventory of things. I sat and I actually contemplated. I gave myself space. So you talked about, do you need that space? Yeah. When you're in a transitional, or what I call a hard realization of life, that is not a bad place to be, because the next step is you're going to beat yourself up. You're going to hate yourself for things. And after you do all that, if you're strong enough, and I recommend you do, and you learn how to do that, because once you know what you need to improve, you get stronger and you start focusing there. Well, what am I good at? What are my strengths? And hey, I can do this. And I just got to do something. Nothing happens until something moves. That's the whole premise. So I was in my garage. I'm on this teeter of like, well, I don't want to go that way. I'm going to lean in. And because I leaned in, there was a reaction. So you have to do something, and you're going to get some sort of result or reaction of some sort. And depending on that result, could be negative, it could be positive. I didn't care. I just didn't want to go that way. I didn't care if I failed, because I'm already failing. And when you have a realization that failure is just the same as success, when you're leaning in, that's a better place than going the other way. So it didn't matter to me what the result was. I just had to do something. And that something just became even more and more and greater as I got clarity. So what I did, and this is the sort of lesson, is I just dropped my story. Who cares? See, we can reframe, rewire, we can do all these things that maybe gurus talk about, but I think the reality is we have so much capacity within the seasons of life and the quilt of life, if you want, to just say, you know what, it was just part of the quilt. No big deal. Let's move on. It's done. It's already sewn in there. I don't want to rip it out. I don't want it to be like, it's my life. It's my quilt of life. So, I just dropped the story and I created, a new one. And I just said, every time I lean in, there's going to be something that's going to happen, and I'm going to learn from it, or I'm going to win from it. And that was just the new me. And I was 30 pounds overweight. I leaned in, a message, if you want, came to me to just like, dude, you got to move. Like, you've been an athlete. How'd you let yourself get here? Let's fix that. And then as I progressed, I was able to then figure out that when you look good and you feel good, wherever you are. And that doesn't mean you have to be skinny. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you can look in the mirror and you can have finally that moment that you love yourself again. And that was the big change. That was the place I got to, that it didn't matter about strategy, skills. It was like, I just needed to look in the mirror again and like say, it's okay. It's just love, brother. I found out that love is the most powerful tool that you can have. And that's our connection. That's our connection to higher self, universe, God, whoever you believe in. Doesn't really matter. And I learned that that sort of leaning in was my ability to connect to God. Yeah. And just go, like, just do something, like help. Like no one came to save me, but lots of help was along that journey for sure.
I think those moments, when we have them, can truly define and become a catalyst that changes the trajectory of our entire life. And obviously that was one of those life affirming moments for you, and quite remarkable. And thank goodness that you did lean in and got to that point where you could ask those types of deep questions that we need to ask of ourselves in order to make the changes that we want to make and become the version of the person who we know we're capable of becoming. Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about those 5 powerful questions. Why don't you share those with our audience?
Yeah, great, for sure. And I love them because it was my discovery. And, I think what it was I needed to become, like, I needed to know who I really was. And I think I was very clear, through the seasons of my life. Do I remember all those things that I thought? No, but I knew I had like this foundation, and I always had a good attitude, and I always went and did stuff. Like I knew that that's how you got stuff, because I told you the story of being young, that I had to go and perform a giver's gain. I had to go give something, a service, something in order to get. So the 5 questions that I discovered along that journey was, what do I really want? Like, what do I want in my relationship? What do I want in my, relationship with my kids, my partner? What in my business, with my clients, with my friends, with my relatives, with my parents, with, what is that I want? And I found some things. And remember, and I was now at a point where the on the move piece for me was physical activity. It's like I wanted to get like in my body again, my body that I, remember looking in the mirror, that whole mirror exercise. Like, dude, I don't recognize you. You're not that person, but I see you. And we're going to meet you again. So I got to a point where I was really successful, and I did some work where I was like, okay, when I was really super successful in my life, what point was that? Like when I was at the top of, or whatever that top is, everybody has different levels. And, I was able to see that. And because I studied a lot of NLP and things of that nature, I just anchored back, to that moment. What was I feeling? What did I want? Why did I want it? Oh, what do I want? Why do I want it? What do I want? Why do I want it? And then I got into, well, it's really what we're doing is we're trying to chase a feeling, right? It's a feeling we really want. So what is the feeling I want when I get it? Like, when I get that, how am I going to feel? So each time I was able to set goals, I was able to attach myself to, why do I want it? Or what do I want? Why do I want it? What feeling will I have when I get it? And each time what I did was I set small achievable goals. So I knew that if I go run, that's what I want. I want to get down. I want to go for a run. why do I want it? I want to start dripping off some pounds. I want to feel better in my body. Well, why do I want that feeling is the 4th question. Why do I want that feeling? Well, I know that if I feel that way, my energy level is going to be higher. And because I think that I am a receiver and a transmitter of energy, I gotta power up the station. Let's go.
Yeah.
So part of that is the physical plays with that. And listen, there are people that aren't able to do physical. but it doesn't mean they can't, bring that energy of the body into the mind, no matter where they're at, because it's the same thing. It's just a matter of questions. Our minds are so powerful. Our brains are geared around answering and solving problems. You just become a very good problem solver and a very good communicator, and you'll do very well in life. I know that.
True.
So really what the question that I led to, though, which is the rabbit hole for me, was, why is that feeling missing now? And when I was able to discover those, and in my world, what's important to me, what my feelings are, because everybody's different. But if you ask those 5 questions, I believe you'll get closer to what's really important. And once you understand what's really important, then it's just the pursuit of that. And for me, every day was, hey, I'm going to get up. I'm going to win the day every day. I'm going to start with making my bed, because it tidies things up a little bit. It's kind of like life. Tidy it up just a tiny bit. Start there, and I promise you, each progress creates happiness, right? Tony Robbins talks about this. Happiness is the progression. It's progress. All we got to do is create a day full of progress, just a little bit, and chip away. Because, the proverb says that, what's the best time to, plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Right.
What's the second best time? Now. So I just look at life that way a little bit, Jay. And, I'm not excluded from feelings and emotions. And I just learned how to manage them better and have tools in certain times of my life that, I can lean on and lean in. And that experience, was allowed me to have a renewed focus on life, because I was able to then say, okay, like, dude, drop the story. It's a brand new canvas. What do you want to paint? What do you want to do? I don't have to be that person that I was, because it didn't get me what I, truly wanted. And now I know what I want. So I got to become someone new. I got to become that person. So I just went on that journey, brother. And my physical fitness turned into my mindfulness, and my mindfulness and my physical have created a vibration in me that I've got more belief in myself, a lot more confidence. I love to just help people because I know the giver's gain. And I like everybody, and this is for everybody out there. We all have had bad stuff happen, but if you're here listening right now, you got through that. I mean, we all get through it. You just got to, the only way through it is through it. Yeah,
That's
I guess probably the best way.
Or if you are in the middle of it, still going through it, here are 5 powerful questions that you can ask yourself. You can take a look at reframing and changing the storyline, right? We are completely malleable, and we have that ability to change. Change is inevitable. Change is always happening anyway. The question is, are you influencing that change? Are you the one that is controlling the controllables, or you were just allowing what happens to happen? So I thank you for sharing those 5 powerful questions. And clearly that can apply anywhere to any situation. And I love the
no matter where you are,
no matter where, business, personal, I think that's outstanding. And I love how it really requires us to kind of peel back the layers. It almost reminds me of the Socratic method, where, kids are so good at this, which you kind of brought up earlier. Keep asking the why, keep digging deeper, keep really trying to find out, why am I connecting with this? What do I want? How am I going to get there? What's important to me? How do I want to feel? All of those things really peel back. And once we've experienced that, we've been able to answer those powerful questions, we are in a much better position to experience the success that we want for ourselves and that we want for those that are around us. So
yeah, for sure.
So let's talk for a moment about sales, your sales background, you're an expert in sales coaching and training and advising. I'm curious, as you look around the landscape and you think about the clients that you've helped, what are some of the common sales mistakes that many of us make that you've seen that you can tie back to?
Yeah, great. My world. Well, first of all, just to reiterate, the aspect of sales for me has always been a game. It ties into how I look at, I've looked at life. Being in sports, there's great analogies if you look at the game, any game, like you're trying to score a goal or touchdown or whatever it is. You're trying to do something over an opponent, right? And in a lot of what I found through all my training in the world of business and everything else out there with companies that have salespeople, and I've been training them and talking to them, coaching them, people are just disengaged. They're disengaged. That's the biggest issue. They just they're somewhere else because they're not aligned. The company hasn't figured out how to align and understand their personal goals to what the company's goals are, because everybody is different. Everybody just has these paper pushing people in between that upper management needs to see results. The salespeople have their own aspirations and goals. Not everybody's going to be the same. And, therefore people are just disengaged. Now, what I endeavored on was, how do I take disengagement and how do we solve disengagement? And I'm like, what did I do to be engaged? Like, why was I engaged? So I went back to, my successes as a sales guy. I've done almost, 700 million in personal sales through all my career, working with clients on their products or working on my own companies or being in companies that I've helped drive that business development. And I reflected on, when I sold $1 million commissions, for example, not $1 million deals, but commissions, and I was able to duplicate it. Well, how did I do that? It's like way back when Ben Hogan was asked, and if you know Ben Hogan, he was a great golfer. For all those people out there that don't know, Ben Hogan was an amazing golfer. He could drive the ball really far with like no technology really back then, wooden sticks, but he can do it. And he was asked, how come he can drive the ball so far? And he didn't really know. He thought he knew, so he tried to teach people, but they couldn't duplicate it. But then when film came out, they were able to rewind it a little bit, watch him, and he had a special little whip at the end that would give him the energy necessary to hit the ball. And as far as he did, he didn't know that until he saw it. So very similar to me, when I was doing things, I didn't really know why I had the success, other than when I looked back and I'm like, well, how can I solve this disengagement issue? Like, I did these things. I thought it was normal because of the environment, the people I was around, and maybe the opportunities that were given to me, or I created maybe. How do I solve disengagement? And I thought, well, what? Like, I think I played a game. Like I literally was playing a game every day. Because, one thing, when people tell me I can't do something, I don't know what happens when I know I can. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, how do I get, how did I communicate with my upper management to what they needed? Because I was here, and how did I perform? Who was in between? And I just figured out that, I just went and played a game every day, and I didn't get beat up if, I didn't rewind. Okay, here's pros. Okay, let's take this, for example. I heard this recently on some shows, so it's not exactly, my analogy, but it's someone who made it very clear. It's like when a pro hockey player or pro football player, and they're in the moment and the intensity and that attention, and something goes wrong. They don't have the luxury of rewinding that moment where something went wrong, because they have to be ready for the next play. And often in life, people are just rewinding those bad moments of bad plays and bad play. I didn't make that. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And that's this repetition of stuff. So it becomes that disengagement because something happened, right? And no one's been that conduit between what motivates them to where the company is. So I started figuring out the disengagement, because I'll tell you the truth, Jay, no one can play a game disengaged. You can't play a game disengaged. It means you're not playing.
Right.
So I turned everything into a game. I solved disengagement by just creating a game. And when you have them engaged to what their goals and motivation is, then it's just a matter of time and repetition before they get success that they're looking for that's aligned, and everybody grows. So for me, it was always about keeping things simple. A, B, C, D. Know where you're going, direction. Who do I need to connect with or communicate with? Who do I need to become? Who am I now? What's my being? Who am I? And what's my, ultimately, what's my activity, my attitude, and I'm really simple like that. And so I started creating this way to play a game daily, and there's going to be some results at the end of it that I can point to that were success. And if you do that every day, then you win the day every day. A, B, C, D. It's the game. I solved disengagement because why do you play a game, Jay? Why do you like games?
Because I want to have fun.
Okay, fun. Great. What else?
I want to win.
Who doesn't want to have fun and win every single day? And if you're going to work for most of that day, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult to put two and two together. So I created a game. I really did. And it's evolved, and it's actually now called My Evolution, because I think everybody has their own evolution, and we just need to be given the tools. And what you do with those tools are really up to you. Some people will bring it really far, but everybody will have some sort of experience of success, because unless they're completely disengaged, which means they're not playing the game anyway, so who cares? But if you play a game, you're going to get some success, I promise you. It just takes one move, one moment, one thing, one conversation, I don't know how things happen. I just do it. And then things kind of fall into place. And because I'm a critical thinker, I can think on my own. I can also lean in to people like yourself, as my friend, to say, hey, what do you think? I surround myself with people that can give me that perspective that I might not see. So yeah, just play a game, brother. Everything, always be connected to your direction.
So My Evolution?
Yeah. It's something I've been working on. It used to be called the Kick-Ass Sales Game, but I'm like, you know what? Not everybody, is a salesperson, or better yet, not everybody is in sales, even though honestly, everybody's in sales.
True.
Everybody. And we won't get into that today. Might be for another discussion. However, I felt that, the tools that I've been able to put together, and I have a radio show now where I basically just said, I'm going to give my best stuff. Who cares? I want to help as many people, and that's a great megaphone. So I'm on every Saturday morning now, and it's a lot of fun. You're in my locker room and you're in a game, and I'm just going to unleash like a coach would for 41 minutes. And hopefully people get what they needed. Because I'm a true believer that the intersection of the universe comes together at certain times where you need to hear something. And if you bump into it, like most people do, you got to pay attention. But I'm trying to train people to just pay attention. Just go into life curious and go into life paying attention. And if you want to change, you got to look at the things that are going on in your life, because it's not because of anybody else. It's because of you. And, like I said, I like to punch below the belt every so often. And I think that it's really important that people hear the truth, not what they want people to say to them, because that might not always be the right thing for them. But I like being able to tell people that you got to be committed, not interested. You got to do something. One move doesn't matter. I don't care, because I often say, how many steps does it take to get out of the comfort zone, Jay?
All it takes is one
step. And you'd be surprised at what happens with that start of anything, a conversation, a hello, a telephone call, an email, going somewhere where, you keep avoiding, whatever that is. You'd be surprised at how the universe works and what happens after that. And, I won't get into all the tools, but I've got a ton of them at certain times of my life that I've been able to extract into the evolution of me. And if you look at my evolution, ME, it's me. So I got a little brain thing there going as well. And that's what the program's all about. Yeah.
Well, we will certainly link to as much information as we can so our audience can jump into your world, jump into all the wonderful things that you're doing, consume your content. So I'm going to ask you about that here momentarily. What words, Chris, would you use to describe yourself today?
I'm probably a business development expert and business advisor. I help companies launch their businesses, take their business from a revenue of X, to Y. Results are everything for me. And I work primarily in that arena. And I love coaching just in general. And that, I'm a radio host now, Jay, and that's new, and I've never done it before, but I jumped right in and said, all right, let's go. Let's do it. So
all right, I'm gonna push back on you for a moment because you just described what you do.
Right.
Give me some words that describe who you are.
Okay, that's even better. Thanks for resetting me. Who I am. I am positive thinker. I am a dad who absolutely adores my children. I am a good partner who listens and communicates and tries to have more empathy in life. I am someone who likes to go after my goals. And, I look for ways that I can help others. So I am probably very much a giver. So that probably is enough. I mean, I don't want to keep saying it because it's weird, but I appreciate you resetting me to make me think about, those things about me, of who I am. But yeah, cool.
Thank you for sharing that.
Is that enough?
That's perfect. That's
okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So before I ask my final question to you, two things. One, where can we go to connect with you? Why don't you share with us the best place to go to learn more about you, about what you're doing, how you serve, your show, your book, all of it?
I would say, at Success Playbook, you can find me on Instagram. That's a great place. I spend a lot of time there. You can DM me through that, but I'm building the community right now on my text so I can get directly communicating. So 850-331-0223 is a place where I can push information out periodically. I don't inundate people, but they can join my text platform. 850-331-0223. And I think that's a good way to connect with me. And you can go to my website, christophercumby.com. That's where you'll probably find all like the nuances of my stuff. But I think to communicate with me, Instagram or go on my text platform is probably the best.
Perfect. So we will definitely provide links to those in the show notes.
Thank you.
And again, before I ask that final question, what challenge would you like to leave our audience with?
That's great. It's a great question. Challenge. I love challenges because I do them every week on my show as a coach. So challenges for me are pretty easy. And I think for your show and anybody that's listening into what we just talked about and subscribe to this, I think the biggest challenge is no matter where you are right now, how can you level up? And, what I mean by that is, there's some sort of action that needs to happen. A result is going to, come out of it, negative or positive. What is that going to shape in your belief system? Right? Because, that's what's ultimately going to get you to a new potential. And I think by doing that, action, result, contemplation, where does this fit? Do I believe, what is that? Can it elevate me? It should be sort of that cycle for anybody as a challenge right now to go out and really look at what is going on in your world and are you at your true potential? I probably say everybody isn't. Everybody can be at a new potential, no matter who you are. It's where you're able to just say, I'm in my comfort zone. I'm going to stay there, and that's fine. I don't judge anybody, but I always believe you can go a little bit higher. So that cycle is probably a good place to start, where I can challenge people today to just take some sort of action towards something. Maybe you were not wanting to, or fear, and then see what the result is, and try to take the belief in a way that you can either win or learn, and then from there level up and just keep going.
All right. Love that challenge. So for all of you that are listening or watching, take Chris's words and act on them. And remember this, and I posted about this earlier today, you don't need to see the whole staircase to take that one step. Just take it, right? Take that action. So thank you for sharing that challenge with us. So here is my final question to you. What's one of the greatest gifts that life has given you that you didn't realize at the time?
You don't know how strong you are until you have to be strong. And I think that that's what life gives all of us. So no matter where you're at right now, just know that you can handle it and you can keep going. And you just got to tap into some people around that, whether they're your silent counsel or people you can talk to openly. It doesn't matter which one, but tap into that. And I think that, your resilience is more than you think, and you survived every day up until now. And I believe that people can level up and keep going. You just got to, tune in. That's probably, a good start.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
sharing.
Yeah.
And Chris, thank you so very much for joining us today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I'm grateful for you. There's two descriptive words that I want to throw out that I thought about as you were sharing with us how you would describe yourself. And one of those is heart-led, and the other is a deep thinker. And that was just resonating.
Deep thinker.
A heart-led deep thinker. When you and I had an opportunity to actually meet face-to-face recently, we had a great conversation, and that's something that resonated with me. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Love
and
that.
Again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here,
Well,
for
thank
sharing
you, Jay.
sharing your experiences and sharing some best practices with us. It's been a great conversation. So I'm grateful for you.
Well, I appreciate you, Jay, and your show is amazing. I heard so much about it, and then I listened, and I got the sense of the great host you are. Obviously, your audience reflects who you are as well. So thank you to the audience out there for listening in. And, this man right here, keep supporting him, keep sharing it out there. This stuff, that he is able to curate and bring together takes a lot of effort. And he's doing it because he knows unequivocally that this is something that's going to help you. And I just love that concept of, pushing it out there the way you are, Jay. And the show's fun. It's growing for you. I'm excited for you. We're now, connected in different sense. And we've had a conversation. All we needed to do is break a little bread and we would have been like at lunch or dinner somewhere. But listen, I really appreciate that, you having me on, and to your audience for listening in.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you, and for all of you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and why don't you leave us a review? We would love it if you would share one or two comments. Let us know what connected with you in this conversation. How about that? And To enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help your business build a solid foundation, all you need to do is visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing. Download a copy of the Success Playbook ebook. We'll link to that. And we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.